Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? It's just a little thing I made up where I come into my office first thing in the morning, although I have been able to do it later in the day. And I just pose the question. I pose the question like a meditation, like an oral meditation. And for an hour and a half, I talk to myself about it, and I invite you in to listen to me because I think it's interesting. I think I have some wisdom to add. I also believe this. This is what I believe, and we can get all kinds of information from each other. You don't have to just get it from me. Frankly, I haven't gotten it from me. I've gotten it from all kinds of other people. You can get it from me. I can get it from other people. Other people can get it from other people. We've got a lot of wisdom to share. Basically, let's see. My thesis statement to the world is this. I believe that the preponderance of all of the woes of humanity, all of their suffering, is mostly coming from the fact that we don't know who we are. And if we did know who we are, then we would handle what happens to us way different. And it wouldn't hurt nearly so much. And it would be way more effective, way more of the time, to affect the outcomes that we really prefer. That's what I believe. I believe specifically that our ignorance of source energy, this quantum field, this 0 point energy field, this infinite field of energy that connects us all, and how it connects us, I believe that us not knowing that is causing, or let's put it a different way, us knowing about that would alleviate many of our problems. Would be more effective in our physical manifestations. Although I do tend to take a spirit forward approach to the whole thing, my ultimate goal is the same as anybody else's. I would like to affect the physical manifestation of the world around me. I would like it to be better. I would like to be able to affect it in an improved way on a regular basis. How about that? It's not that I am sitting here so unhappy. Why can't you just be satisfied? Sort of a thing. I'm never satisfied. I always want more. It's not like that. You have to understand our design, which leads me to why I'm doing the show. Who am I? And what is my biotechnology and how do I operate it? You have to understand your design and to understand that even though you may primarily want to change the physical manifestation, that may be your primary goal. You have to understand that the physical manifestation of the physical world is a secondary effect. It may be your primary goal to affect the physicality of the manifestation around you, but it itself is a secondary effect. So if you want to affect the physical world, you have to pay attention to the vibrations. You have to pay attention to how they feel because the vibration precedes the manifestation. And this is going to lead me directly to my first change of scene. I go to this one. If you're a fan of the show, you know this slide, these two slides that refer to cymatics, which is the study of the relationship between vibration and form. And so this guy, Hans Jenny, the way he started with his studies is he would take a metal plate and sprinkle a granular medium on top, salt, sugar, sand, something like that. And then you pipe a frequency through the system, and lo and behold, patterns appear on the plate. The sand or the sugar, whatever you've put on there, dances its way into a coherent pattern. And when you change the frequency, it dances into a different pattern. And it just does that. Now, the interesting thing is when you change the frequency and the pattern changes, there's a moment between patterns when it doesn't really look like anything. It kind of looks like chaos. And if you didn't know what was going on, you might be confused, especially if you were taking your cues from physicality, from the markers on the ground, from how things are looking physically on the ground. If that's all you're taking your cues from, there's a moment in time when, well, for instance, like now, I do believe that we are changing our frequency. Humanity is changing who it is, who it knows itself to be, and how it acts from who it knows itself to be. I think it's probably happening because of larger cosmic patterns. You know, pedagogical realities of rolling energy, and or possibly, I have heard this. I have a book in my arsenal called something about surviving the end of time, or I can't. It's been a long time since I looked at the book, so I'm not really sure what it says. But it's talking about different. There's a energy events in the local neighborhood around our solar system. We have just entered some 50 years ago, maybe, began to enter this phase that will last 1,000 years of higher energy. Just a higher level of energy moving in the field for the next 1,000 years, because it's a neighborhood cosmic event. There's some sort of... before I start talking about these things, I should research them, right? Well, if I think about it, I'll go look at this. In any case, it doesn't matter specifically what it is. For some reason, our energy is increasing. Things are moving a lot faster. We are moving more quickly in the direction of where we don't want to go. And things we are bringing the house of cards down more quickly, which I think is one of the reasons why I believe I am inspired, or at least my belief that that is true. We may not be doing this. We may be slowing down to a crawl. No, that's not possible. Right now on the planet, how many different generations, and we call them all different things, and basically they're delineated because of when they were born, for sure. But the reason we call them different generations is because they all have different ideas about the nature of reality. Mostly what's the word? Unquestioned. That's what we're doing. Who am I? We're questioning that. But depending on what decade you were born, I suppose that the generations go probably 10 years at a time now instead of 20. It used to be the number of years that it took for a generation to itself grow up and then start the next generation. But I'm not sure it's taking that long. I think every 10 years you've got a whole new batch of people that have a whole different take on the situation. It used to be you would grow up in your grandfather's, or at least your father's, paradigm and believe it to a point. It would take a while. It would take maybe 80 years for generations to change. But boy, is that not the same. You've got your boomers. You've got your greatest generation, the ones who fought the wars, the big wars. Now, I know the boomers fought another war. They fought Vietnam, but that one wasn't the same as, it was not satisfying like World War II, where we really believe that we defeated an antichrist in Hitler, who wanted to enslave the world. And physically speaking, you could point to that and say it's true. But it's still true that there's only one of us here, and there's no us and them and all of that. And so the us and them paradigm itself is poison. And yet you go, yeah, but look at us, the Allies, and them, the Nazis. Could there be a more clear us and them paradigm? They're so wrong. We're so right. We were, love and truth and beauty and mom and apple pie and, whatever. And they were enslaving the world. Honestly, we really need to examine that whole paradigm a little more closely and see really what the problem was there. Because the spirit is rising again. It's the same field phenomenon. You can feel it. You can see it. Thousands, millions of people across the world can see this phenomenon coalescing in front of our eyes again, and we don't understand it. We can't figure out why we keep doing this. Why are there millions of people here in the United States ready to elect a mob boss who was our president once before, who smashed all kinds of things, who did all kinds of terrible, terrible things to our institutions, to the groups of organizational entities of our being that have organized to keep certain things in order, the pristinity of our national parks and our actually, there's all kinds of things that we pretend like, I think it comes down to this. This is why it keeps happening. We don't know what's true. It's very easy to see how hard it is to see on the ground physically what's true. I'm air quoting maybe. Am I air quoting? Do I mean true or true? What's true? And everybody's got an idea of we're expected to sort the truth out with our physical brains. It's not possible. I think that the absurdity of the situation is trying to show us that you can't sort it out. Even when it's obvious, you can't sort it out. And the law is never going to save us. So what is going to save us? Are we going to get saved? Maybe some people say, well, that's the problem. You're not going to be saved. We're lost. I think we will be saved because I think ultimately we're all right. And actually a sense of all rightness, and just if in your own personal space you could just calmly address whatever it is on your plate and find your way to the more, to the better. So who am I? And what is my design? What is it that I am designed to do? Well, I'll tell you what I think we're designed to do. I think we're designed to improve things. Which, isn't that funny? Look at what human beings do, and yet I think we're designed to improve things. But when we don't understand our design, then we use it funny. And then we don't improve things, we make it worse. We make things worse. We destroy things, and we kill things. We should not be killing things. Thou shalt not kill. There's a reason that we were advised that way. So what do I mean when I say I believe that we were designed to improve things? And what is all this about wanting more and our desires to the better and the more and the more and the better? I think that we're actually designed that way. We have a wicking instinct inside of us that pulls to the more, that pulls to the better. It's where our desire is. There's a little wick of feeling, of energy, of push forward. It's an impulse. It's an imp. And I say the word advisedly because think of how many words begin with that word imp. Impulse, imperative, impossible, how many more? Imply. And I believe that they're all coming from this, the beginning of that word. It's telling you about a place in our system, in our solar plexus, I think is where it's located. Physically, if you had to point to some place. There's a place where we're emanating our vibrational frequency. Do you know that we are transmitters and receivers way more than we are? It's not that our minds are manufacturing, our physical minds are manufacturing ideas. That's not what's happening. We are two beings. We are a binary we are a binary system, and our imagination is actually a vibrational download coming from our higher mind, our higher vibration, our higher self, our higher perspective. So you're a transmitter and a receiver, and one of the 5 laws that you cannot change is that what you put out is what you get back. So whatever vibrational frequency you are transmitting on, forget its physical attachment to what you imagine as physical reality. Just because you're making that up. The question is, what frequency are you broadcasting on? What's your vibrational offering? Is it positive or is it negative? And whatever it is, the color of everything coming back at you is that frequency. And your understanding of everything is coming in on that frequency. So if it's angry and aggrieved, that's what's coming back to you. Do you know that there are millions of people right now in the United States who are going to vote in that frequency? And they're going to vote for a candidate who is running on that frequency. And do you know what that's going to do to us? It's actually, we didn't get a big enough dose of it the first time. And the reason we didn't get a big enough dose of it the first time is we didn't learn the lesson that was on the table to learn. And the lesson is, who am I? Who are we? And so let's talk about this. I make the claim that all of our woes stem from the fact that we don't know who we are. I make another claim that we're actually beings designed to improve the situation. Now, how can that be when we are such destroyers of natural beauty, such killers of the planet and each other? How is it possible that our actual design is to improve the situation? Well, you have to understand the design in order to operate it properly. If you don't understand the meaning of your negative emotions, then you will take them literally, and then you'll start thrashing around in bass-ackwards, opposite, wrong impulse ways. Because you don't know who you are, because you don't understand who you are and how to operate your equipment. So let's start with the premise that we are designed to improve things. How does it work? Life causes you to have preferences. Life causes you to understand what you prefer. Ooh, I like coherence better than I like chaos. Ooh, I like efficiency better than I like chaos. Ooh, I like love better than I like fear. I like life better than I like killing. I like honor and dignity better than I like rape and pillage. I like everyone getting what they want better than almost nobody getting what they want, and one greedy pig, lascivious, greedy pig, hogging it all to himself in his misalignment and acting as though he is not part of the field phenomenon. I don't like that. As I experience more of that, I don't care for that. As I experience more of us having less than all that we need, I don't like that. And so how does my design work? Life causes me to ask. Source answers vibrationally. It becomes the implicate positive to the negative I have experienced, and then the implicate positive that I am asking for. Source understands what I am asking for, understands who I am and what it is that I want, and vibrationally becomes that frequency is all it is. It's just a frequency now. And yet it's a frequency. And it's a blueprint to get us from where we have just experienced the experience of the that which we did not prefer, whatever it is, the living under the dictator, or having experiencing the sixth mass extinction of biological diversity upon planet Earth. That's what we're experiencing right now. And frankly, folks, I don't prefer this. And you know what? I have come to believe that we don't need to experience this anymore. The reason that this is happening, that the sixth mass extinction and all this manufactured austerity and lack, because we think we need to take our energy systems through this man-made construct of fossil fuels, and we don't. We can plug directly into source energy. I know it. I know it. I know it. I know we can plug our technology directly into source energy, and we can do a lot of things that are something less than that too. It is possible to create over-unity devices. It is easily possible for us to create over-unity devices. What's tricky is to have educated a whole frickin', not just a generation, but a century of human beings to generally believe that it is not possible, that fossil fuel is necessary, is what we have just had to do. And so we have to keep piping our energy systems through this paradigm of fossil fuels, which keeps a certain small group of people on this planet, thank you very much, in control of our energy systems, in control of our petrodollars, in control of our political systems. We don't even have to go through all the shit we go through. We can go directly to the source. We can go directly to the source. Now, this brings me to, because let's see, where am I? Oh, I'm only 23 minutes in. Wonderful. I have at least another hour to be with you where we can talk about these things. Who am I, and what will solve the problems of humanity? Well, the very first, so the show is Who Am I, right? And the reference is who am I in reference to source energy. And why do I ask these questions? Because it will psychologically fix humanity so that we are more peaceful, more loving and kind, more inclusive and tolerant, more addition consciousness. We need to add each other in. It is not possible for us to just, I don't know what to do with you because you're acting up. You're acting in a way that I just don't know what to do with. You're chaotic. If I could subtract you from the equation, then all would be peaceful. So I'm just going to subtract you. I'm going to literally subtract you. Last century, we had a whole a nation, a paradigm that tried to do this, that thought, that imagined in its tortured imagination that there was one thing basically to blame for the woes of mankind. It was the Jews. And if we could subtract them and all the others that are our problem, let's see, what else did we need to subtract? All of the the physical defectives, homosexuals, gypsies. There was all kinds of retards. Let's just subtract them. And what did that mean? That came to mean let's literally subtract them. Let's try to just murder them all, erase them, bury their bones somewhere. It'll be fine. How did that work out? It didn't work out very well. Well, let me tell you, we really don't want to do this again. And also, I don't actually think it is going to happen again. It certainly isn't going to happen in the way that it did, but this same energy flavor, this same vibrational frequency, can't you feel the freaking sameness? Now, it's helpful to feel sameness. It's also helpful to feel difference. It is different. We have been busy over the last century doing different things to try to get out ahead of this happening again, because we are indeed horrified. We were horrified when it went down the first time. We'd be horrified if it happened again the second time in a big, big way. Like a nation of millions of people sanctioning, it's not going to happen again. One of the things that we have been doing in the last century, since that first bad thing went down, I'm talking about the Holocaust, of course. I'm talking about Nazi Germany. I'm talking about Hitler taking power and having this imagining of enslaving the world, and this series of death camps and work camps and extermination projects where they tried to subtract large groups of people because they didn't fit into the paradigm of perfection that was in the imagination of the German psyche. We don't need to do this again, and we won't, because first of all, I don't think World War is going to happen again. At least I hope it doesn't. I'm going to have to put my foot down if it looks like my country in my name, using my tax dollars, is going to go out and try to World War III somebody else. Now, to be fair, the United States already does a lot of military action in my name, and I don't know what to do about it. So where are we in the narrative? Shall we go back to talking about where I claimed that we are beings that are designed to make things better? Step one, life causes me to notice what I prefer, causes me to claim, to declare who I am in this field of things that some things I prefer and others that I do not prefer. What do I identify with? What do I want to put forward? What do I want there to be more of? Life causes me to ask for more, for better, for more. I'm gonna stand on that claim. If you're operating your equipment correctly, this is what you do. First of all, kind of unstick how you are glued to the materiality of it. You're going to stick in a way, but just unstick how you've got it attached. Right now, just kind of lift it all up and assume that you don't really know how you're attaching your identification to the physicality of the reality around you. Just lift it up for a minute. Now, let's assume that, so life has caused you to ask for what you prefer. I had an experience in my life. I was married to chaos, and I really prefer the lack of drama. I really don't like the drama of the high-pitched emotions that I was married to. I prefer no drama. And in life, I would prefer us to live in a state of less drama. That's what I have come to realize, that I don't like careening forward at 1,000 miles an hour with people around me melting down for whatever reason. I like my nature around me to be soft, kind, green, filled with water and the sound of birds. I like all this. I don't like deadscapes. I don't like nightmarescapes of concrete, asphalt, and high temperature, death, dry, whatever. Life has caused me to realize what I prefer, what I love, what I want, what would be better. And when you realize how your equipment is designed and you focus upon the better that you want, even if it's not there. So you're wanting something now that's where you're going, not where you are. You're focusing on that which you want, not that which you have. And something starts happening. Things start popping out of the quantum field. And the manifestation starts rolling in the direction of what you want, instead of just staying stagnated in this horrible cesspool of what you've got. Quit focusing on what we've got, people. Understand how your equipment works and focus on what you prefer. Focus on that which would be better, even if it doesn't exist yet. You don't have to focus on what we've got. You don't have to focus on the reality as it stands on the ground. Understand that you're a being of light flying through the universe at high speeds. And you are the quantum field, and you're moving through frequencies. And there's way more potential for way more magical, cool, manifesting shit. And I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't use that word. Manifesting stuff and moving through the landscapes. Way more than you think. In reality. Because reality itself isn't what we've been taught that it is. First of all, there's some really magnificent aspects to it. There is a point that all points share, which means it's like the universal teleportation point, I would say. It has to be. It's this place where it's not a place, it's a non-local thing, it's everywhere. It's a point that all points share. And so you just go to the common point, and non-locally now you are anywhere. You just have to be able to lock into the frequency of where it is you're going, and you can be there. I think that's actually how space travel is really going to happen. Really serious space travel. You'd think of it in a Star Trek way. It would almost be thought of as traveling through subspace frequencies. They talk about subspace all the time. I know they're talking about the quantum field. They're talking about this thing that connects us all. This divine matrix, the actual design of the universe that we have in common with one another, and what it implies about what is possible physically. We are dreaming this into being, people, which is how come I put in my description of this, the description of this video, why I put butterfly dreaming in there. Because I thought it was a really good article. And Paul Levy and his work, his thesis statement is kind of on the order of the gift of what is implied when we understand quantum physics will save humanity from this monstrous psychic disease we've got going on that hides in darkness that he calls Wetiko, And Wetiko is a psychic blindness. The word comes from Native Americans. It's the origin of the Wendigo, or there's other kinds of ways to pronounce that word. The Wendigo is a kind of, it's a monster, a physical monster, but it's actually talking about the psychic blindness that human beings get. It comes with our configuration. It comes with our design. And I think it comes with our design because somebody designed us. And that's why we actually need a user's manual. We need a user's manual. So think of this, who am I, as kind of a user's manual. We're talking every day about how to use our physical, psychological equipment. And I've said this before, but the Wendigo or the Wetiko, this disease that Native Americans noticed. Now, before the white man came, it was just kind of a, sometimes you'd see it, sort of disease. Most Native Americans understood their connection to the natural world and to the cycles of time, the 7 generations of, or whatever. They understood. But occasionally you would have someone who just didn't get it. And they would describe, the way that they would draw this is they would draw a human with their head not attached to the body, because their head seemed to be thinking stuff that didn't connect to reality, that connected to things that were not sustainable or supportable because it wasn't connected to actual reality. They noticed it in a big way when the white man came across the sea. The way we treated each other, the way we treated the natural landscape, we just cut it down, munched it up, turned it into cities. Did not seem to think about how the threads of life connected to one another. Well, all of this is coming back to haunt us. And it's coming back to us understanding the meaning of what we needed to understand all along. And that is, who am I? We needed to get this all along. It's why we didn't stop them when they artificially kept us going with this paradigm of fossil fuels as source energy. It's why we did not protest, why we didn't understand that that was stupid and wrong, and we shouldn't be building the momentum of our infrastructure in this direction. And we need to stop building infrastructure in the direction of fossil fuel burning. We don't need to do it, and it's killing the planet. We don't need to build pipelines across sacred aquifers down to refineries on our Gulf coasts to be then stuck on oil tankers and then shipped across heaving seas to foreign ports to benefit whatever, to keep our economy going. We don't need to do that. We could actually we have a problem. We do need to keep our supply chain running. And whatever we do in the future, we do need to have a supply chain. A supply chain that produces the things that we need to produce in order for human beings to survive. And helpful, let's think of the 1357 download. I really like this, actually, the 1357 download. It's going to keep us alive. Let's get to the 7 things that we need to survive. Air, and it needs to be clean. Thank you very much. Water, and it needs to be clean. And it needs to support life. Because we're going to need food, and food comes from living things. Now, food's not the third thing. We need sleep. What's going to give us sleep? Well, peace and shelter would give us sleep, and we really, really need sleep. And why do we need sleep? Because there is only one of us here, and it needs to commune with itself. And any being who does not dip back into the well of consciousness, into the well of universal consciousness, which is what you're doing when you go to sleep, you commune with your higher self, you commune with the rest of the field of life and consciousness. And if you don't do that, you will go mad. You will go mad before you starve to death if you do not sleep. At least Bashar tells me that, and that makes sense to me. I'm going to go ahead and go along with that. And I don't know how important that is anyway, but that seems to make sense to me, so I'm going to buy it. So, sleep, food. We need food in the supply chain. The human being, the larger, the greater human, is producing food. And that food needs to circulate around to all of us. And I actually mean all of us. We need to be producing food in an abundance so great that it will feed all of the rest of the planet, not just humanity. We need to co-create with the abundant potential in the field of the biofield of planet Earth, and we can do it. My gosh, if that was our intention, we could rock the crap out of this. Human beings are wonderful gardeners. Wonderful gardeners. We should be gardening planet Eden. We should rename Gaia. Earth. Is she Earth? Is she Gaia? Is she Eden? Who is she? This beautiful jewel that we are flying through outer space on. I love my planet. And I have come to, my step one moment has brought me to the realization that I prefer life to death. And I prefer a living planet to a dead one. And I prefer a planet of human beings who are dancing and playing and singing and laughing and gardening and we can do all of it. We can have it all. We actually can have it all. I just think we need to know who we are. We need to understand who we are so that we better work the equipment that we are operating. You need to understand that you are an improvement-making machine. You are designed to notice the better and to expand to the more. And to focus on what would be better. Don't focus on what we have that you don't like. You do have to look at it for a minute, just like when you're driving down the road, you do sort of have to skim your eyes on the road a little bit as your car flies across it. You don't have to stop and stare intently at the specific pieces of gravel that you're flying across. As a matter of fact, if you do that, you will slow to a crawl because you can't stare at the specific gravel that you're on and still fly across it going forward to where you want to be. Have you noticed that? There's a reason why the windshield is in front looking forward and not in the floor looking at the ground where you are. Although, when you look forward properly, you are looking at the road. You can see the road. You can see where we are. I can see where we are. But I'm starting to look where we're going, and I don't want to focus on where we are because I don't like where we are. I don't like what we're doing right now. For 100 years, we have suppressed the incremental getting off of fossil fuels that we should have done. We should have been doing it. We were naturally doing it. And all kinds of people came forward with all kinds of ideas. And those ideas were shelved, and those ideas were deep-sixed, often along with their inventor, depending on how stubborn he was, depending on how naive he was about how the world works and what was actually up against him. What was up against him is the object of the exercise all along has not been that we have an easy way or that we successfully make it to blah, blah, blah. That's never been the object of the exercise. The object of the exercise has always been to know who we are. And so that's always been the question. And as long as we were not addressing that as the answer, those over unity devices were never coming to us. And our connection to source energy was never going to happen in truth as long as we did not understand who we were in reference to this source energy that we need to plug into. And so here we are. This is where we are in this moment in time. And I think that it's everything is dancing on a knife's edge. You know, are we going to get away from fossil fuels and quit killing the planet? Are we going to understand who we are so that we will quit killing each other? You know, when you understand that it's all you, that your ornery neighbor is just another aspect of you. He's your freaking unknown self made visible. That's a quote from Khalil Gibran, all but the word freaking, which I added that one myself. Your neighbor is your unknown self, made visible. And so this paradigm of us and them is actually the enemy. That's actually what the enemy is. It's the polarization itself. There's a polarization that happens in the field. A yes, no, a this, that. And there's human beings kind of do this thing where we, in a knee-jerk way, when we take the world conditionally, when we focus outward instead of inward, we see the world in a bass-ackward kind of way. We're seeing it out of alignment. We do not understand our own alignment. And what do I mean by this alignment? Well, before I get to that, I'm going to go back to my second cymatics thing. This is cymatics also. This is some sort of cymatic device that it's digital. You pipe a frequency into this digital device and it produces a frequency, a pattern. And every frequency produces a different pattern. It's all unique. Just like when you look at these, look at the snowflake. This is the explanation of why snowflakes are all unique. Out in the atmosphere, there's all these frequencies. The whole universe is made of frequencies. It's made of Plancks. The building block of the universe is the Planck. We thought it was the atom, but it's not the atom. We've been thinking, what is the building block of the universe? It is the Planck fluctuation at the quantum level. And at the quantum level, these Plancks are fluctuating. They're coming into existence and then going out of existence. And then coming into existence and then going out of existence. Across what I call the event horizon of the 0 point energy field. They are and everything is made of them. And what is a Planck? A Planck is, I would call it an infinitely, but it's not infinitely small. There's actually a formula for it. And here is the Planck. This is what I ended the last video yesterday. I ended with this screen showing the actual formula for the Planck length. It's not infinitely small, but it's really, 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 really freaking small. It's really small, but it's not infinite. It's just the smallest wavelength that we can conceive of in this density. And in order to have a smaller small, you would have to have a different density universe, which we do, by the way. The universes are all kinds of densities. Really super duper 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 dense and way light. And they're all nested within one another. going from the really dense to the really... And how does this work? So every universe is a black hole. And as a black hole, they obey Hawking radiations, which I do have a slide about that too. Let's see, Hawking radiation. Here's my Hawking radiation. And actually a proton, every proton is also a black hole and obeys Hawking radiation. Now, the way, at the size of the proton, the black hole is very stable. As a matter of fact, it will last approximately 10 to the 35 billion years. But let's go back to the notion that the universe is a black hole. And it also will be flinging particles off out of itself through Hawking radiation. That's what black holes do. And where do those plonks that our universe is flinging off, where are they going? Perhaps they are going into a space where it's way less dense. And that plonk hits that less dense, and boom, it big bangs into a universe. And perhaps that's what's happening all around us, all over the place. There's like practically an infinitude of booming, big banging, foaming universes. And what are these universes? It starts getting really esoteric. And actually, it's all mental anyway. And so that doesn't mean it's not real. It just means it's all mental. It's like the line from the Deathly Hallows, where Voldemort has killed him, and for a minute he's at King's Cross Station talking to Dumbledore, who's been dead for a while, and Harry asks him, is this real or is this all happening in my head? And Dumbledore says, well, of course it's happening in your head, Harry. What makes you think that's not real? Because it is experientially real. If you are experiencing it, it might as freaking well be real. Even though it's just experience. It's very subjective. It's all happening in consciousness. And consciousness is where all of us connect to it, too. So, anyway, I do believe that where this mental understanding of things meets the physical configuration of it, which is why I talk about black holes and the singularity of the singularity and source energy and spin and all of that stuff, because that's how it's really configured. It's all spin. Everything is spin. And why does that matter? It doesn't look like it's spin. It looks like, I'm walking over here and she's walking over there, and that butterfly is flying up into the earthworm is doing this, and the car drives by, and nothing's spinning, but it actually is spinning. It's all spinning. Because it's all spinning together on the planet that's spinning. But it's more profound than that, because somehow the whole oneness is connected through a singularity of singularity. There is a single spin that connects us all. And then out of that is this infinitude of divine individuations of spin. And somehow those two dynamics working together, that's you. And that's source energy, and we need to learn how to plug into it so we can get away from fossil fuels, so that we can just naturally start loving the life on the planet again and breathing clean, not dirty air, and we can co-create an abundance with the rest of the biology of this planet that can feed and clothe and quench and house and sustain us all. We can help elephants find their culture again. Help orphaned elephants whom we have killed their I don't want to say ancestors, their elders, the ones who knew the lore. And now the young ones don't know how to be. Although we all would know how to be if we would all just plug into source energy and love one another and sustain one another and feed one another, be kind to one another, quit killing one another. I think what the United States ought to do in order to just even justify its existence as a country at all, as a collective consciousness that is collecting collective resources, and trying to, focus collective projects in different directions. Well, I'll tell you the kinds of projects we shouldn't be doing. Things like 5G or the Willow Project or any kind of crap like that, or the XL pipeline, or any other kind of oil or gas pipeline, or any kind of wired project, or any kind of... None of those things should we be doing, because we don't need to be doing that. Because all of that is implying a lack of understanding of the quantum field, of the source of all things, and a lack of understanding of who we are. So what there ought to be instead is a national push for over-unity device ideas. Let's open up, let's throw the patent office wide open. Let's intentionally do that. Let's call for all the young geniuses to free us from the paradigm of fossil fuel, incrementally, so that it's painless. So that we have devices that cleverly run our lights and our generators and our farm equipment and all of that kind of stuff, the things that we need to keep going. Clean devices, they are possible. I now believe they are possible. If we collectively would start really believing that these things are really possible, I need to quit saying freaking. Maybe I don't. If we would really believe that they were possible, then we would push forwards to pull ourselves off of fossil fuels. We can still do it incrementally, perhaps. But the longer that we wait, the harder it's going to be to do it incrementally. We're being controlled by a small group of people. It's actually not that many people. And it's not that many industries anymore. And it's controlling our major systems of flow. And so what kinds of systems do we have? We have our food producing systems, our supply chain. And what is our supply chain full of besides food? Well, there's food and building supplies, technologies, arts and crafts. What is the supply chain? Clothing, raw materials, because sometimes people have ideas that they want to take raw materials and turn it into goods to put on the supply chain. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the supply chain. Then there's the distribution systems, all of the services of people taking things from one place and taking them to another place. And they're doing it by way of planes, trains, automobiles, walking with they're transferring it electronically. There's all kinds of ways that things and energy is moving around. There's communication systems, because all of this stuff has to include us communicating about it. with one another. Where's my shit? You know? Or all that kind of stuff. There's the energy system itself. And what is it right now? It's flowing, it's fossil fuels. Or now there's other energy credits being produced through other means. Although most of it still comes back to fossil fuels. There's a great deal of fossil fuels being produced with every kind of energy production that we got going on right now, and every one of them is obsolete. Every one of them is obsolete. And so we need to quit trying to advance all of those. Every one of them still making fossil fuels really important. That's how come all of those paradigms are being pushed by the fossil fuel industry. Everything from, they don't really mind the solar panels and the wind power and the nuclear power and all of that stuff. It still implies centralized energy systems and dependence upon some form of using fossil fuels, even if it's just to fabricate the stuff to build the system that doesn't run on fossil fuels after that, even if it's just that. So what's the answer? First of all, I've passed an hour, so I'm going to start to the place where I tell you what's in my links. The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. Please go watch that movie and watch it over and over again and really have it sink into you how real that is. We really have been duped, okay? Be outraged about that for a minute. But then, as after you have just fumed and fussed about the freaking people who are stealing our abundance from us, after you've done that for a bit, then stop and before you act, realize that actually the true enemy of us all is the polarity in the field, and there is no us and them. And even the people who are taking advantage of us through the fossil fuel paradigm, even they are victims of Wetiko, this psychic illness of us that does not plug us into the wholeness of the equation, and and then we get our systems misaligned. Even they, I think even those who would exploit us, the biggest reason why they don't go all the way is their imaginations do not see how better it will be for all of us, even them, if this paradigm is stopped, this paradigm of fossil fuel use and scarcity, artificially created scarcity, and political austerity, and stinginess, and then the greed and the fighting over resources, and just the mess we've got on the ground on planet Earth right now. It is all being caused by us not knowing who am I. Hence my show. The first link, watch The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. Then there's the Origin of Mass and Nature of Gravity video. I probably should put the link to the paper before the video. I don't know. Just glance at that. And then there's The Connected Universe. That's another movie narrated by Patrick Stewart. I love Patrick Stewart. As a matter of fact, I'm rewatching Star Trek Next Generation right now, which in a lot of ways is really stupid, but has some things in it that underlying that are actually quite wise and interesting. Then Butterfly Dreaming, article by Paul Levy. Then I have The Origin of Mass and the Nature of Gravity, the paper. Then just the link to the Whirling Dervishes video, because I thought that was interesting, because if everything is spin, that's all you're seeing, all apparition, all appearance of anything, all experience is being all motion is being caused by spin. all you can see is this Planck field as gradient densities in the field. So it's dense over here, not dense over here. And that gradient of density in a connected field is whirling all of the Plancks into massive, individuated, and then coalescing spins. It's all spin. It's all spin. And when you realize that it's all spin, then things like these whirling dervishes and what they do to feel closer to God, it starts making sense. You're like, oh, I get it. I get it. So very, very cool. So very cool. So now, where are we going to go from here? Who am I? So the implication again is, if this is my design, where did I get this design? Because I don't think that we incrementally evolved over a long period of time. Not human beings. Somebody tweaked us. That's why we have a tradition that kind of feels like somebody... No, we were created. We were created. Human beings are different. Human beings are special. Somebody created us in their image. Actually, I find that interesting. I wonder whether or not those who genetically modified us, somewhere up the line, somebody had genetically modified them. And so then they did it to us. I actually believe that whoever did this to us, whoever genetically modified us, probably did it against their own laws. They broke their own laws of non-interference. The prime directive is a real thing. It isn't just made up by Star Trek. There's a reason why Gene Roddenberry, why his imagination was able to conceive of that. Because it's a real thing. So where does this leave us? I've put this slide back up. This slide is the one that shows the layer of mind, the neocortex. That layer of mind that makes us uniquely human. And 76% of the volume of this neocortex is coming from human chromosome number 2, which is a fused chromosome. Now, it is a fused chromosome. The question is, how did it get fused? Did this naturally happen somehow? Although it is odd, because the way that this is fused, it's telomere to telomere. And telomere is the outside of a chromosome. It's actually it's like extra bit, so that when the chromosome duplicates, when a cell duplicates itself, and those chromosomes duplicate themselves, that it does it true, and all of the information is created. So it's got this little extra bit on it's the telomere. It's not supposed to be on the inside. But when you look at human chromosome number 2, there's telomere material on the inside of the sequence. You can see it. And you can see on the upper... So you can tell that redundancies on both sides of the fusion have been clipped away. It stabilized the whole thing so that it didn't unfuse, like it glued together, but then it didn't just unhinge. It stayed together. And what was created was the human neocortex. It's hard to believe that this wasn't done intentionally. It's really, really hard to figure out how this could make sense if it happened naturally. But it makes a lot of sense if you think that somebody genetically modified us. And then now all of the human traditions across the planet make sense. We really have a way, 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 way different origin story than we have been telling ourselves. Well, in the churches, we might have been telling ourselves something kind of like the truth, although God didn't create us. Some extraterrestrials genetically modified us. The God that created us is the almighty allness, the oneness that glues us all together. The fact that the universe is holographic. That's the almighty aspect. That's the God with a capital G. That's where that comes in. That's different than talking about who genetically modified us and what planet they might have come from and what technological advancement they might have been, what their intentions might have been, and, why did they do that to us? To enslave us? To create... we are really special because of this. It's like we're driving the Ferraris of the universe, the consciousness Ferraris of the universe. Because in our... So, let's go to my... before I leave this, let's just read the abstract like we always do. We conclude that is the relic of an ancient telomere to telomere fusion and marks the point at which two ancestral ape chromosomes fused to give rise to human chromosome number 2. What they're concluding is, you can see telomere, you can see chromosome fused to another chromosome. So they're glued together at the telomere, and you can see what the sequence is on both sides of these things. You can see a little bit of this and that clipped away, but you can see what they were to begin with. They were ape chromosomes. I just find it really interesting. And what it implies about mankind's beginning, and why conventional science is not actively talking about our extraterrestrial beginnings. There should be a systemic, holistic analysis of all of the pyramidal and ancient stone structures across the planet. We should be able to do this with an assumption of understanding where we came from and who lived on this planet before us, who came before us, and where did they come from. And since we aren't talking about it as a whole group, then there's little sideways of us talking about these things on the side. And how do I know how wacky they are or not? They talk about this over on Gaia. Lots and lots of talk about extraterrestrials and our extraterrestrial origins. But I would like our collective conventional science to recognize some of this stuff. One of the problems is a lot of our conventional, recognized science is working for corporations that have an agenda, that want us to stay in a particular paradigm and not really, truly, honestly open up to who we are and the possibilities of who we are. Crack that open just a little bit bigger. Who are we? And where did we come from? And where are we going? And why are we here? And how do you operate the equipment that God gave us? How does that work? We're actually improvement making machines, improvement noticing machines, improvement producing machines. I'm not sure how to put that. Because remember, where should we go with this? Shall we go to this slide? Showing source mind and your individual specific mind both vibrational, both thinking thoughts, one very connected to reality, the other one just imagining things, you know? Which one's just imagining things? Your physical self, of course. Your physical mind is the one that's just imagining things. Your source mind is... oh, excuse me. Your source mind is the one that is connected to actual reality. Excuse me. It's the one that is vibrationally connected to that, I call it the allness channel. That frequency coming in across all of your atomic structure that is reflecting, encoded all the information of all of the protons everywhere in the universe is coming to you across your atomic structure, because every one of your protons has encoded across its Planck structure, Planck field, all of the information of all of the other protons in all of the universe. So your inner being is right there, knowing everything, knows everything, knows what's real. You're the one that doesn't know what's real. You're the one that's imagining darkness. Darkness is not the truth. Light is the truth. It's all okay. It really is okay. Coming from the state of the atomic structure, knowing where everything really is, it's all okay. So now, where are you in this? Because your physical you has an importance in this equation. Without it, there's no one there on the ground making choices. You're the one who has to make the choices. And what are you choosing? You're choosing to focus upon that which you prefer. Or at least that's what you'd be doing if you understood your equipment. Focus upon what you prefer. And if you don't see wholeness that you prefer, focus on aspects that you prefer. Focus on the love. Focus on where things are getting better. Focus. If you start focusing on it, you start recognizing that the universe really is trying to organize us in loving, kind, supportive, connected, beautiful, loving, fun ways. It really is. But you have to open up your consciousness to being willing to accept that that's a possibility. If you're too balled up in all the things you're angry about, then you'll never feel that frequency. You will never feel the frequency of love and connection that really is there. Because negative feelings are really strong. They're very powerful. They're very potent, and they tend to cause you not to be able to feel the softer ones. When you're all outraged and angry, then the softer frequencies just can't reach you. They're being broadcast. They're just being drowned out by the negative ones. You got to know your source self is positive. It's relentlessly, eternally, always light, always positive. And so you in your specific physical self, as you make choices, think about that. When you're making choices about how to think about the situation you're in, or ultimately who your neighbors are, or the real meaning of yourself, know that your inner being knows that at its core, the answer is positive. So if your conventional self is taking ideas that are negative instead, you will be plagued with chaos. You will be plagued with unrest, unhappiness. And the fact is you will be taking out of alignment impulses from your source, which means that you will be creating chaos instead of coherence. Where you try to make things work, they will fall apart. That's the biggest reason why you should not believe your negative mind, because she will only mess it up for you, although she pretends that you need her in order to be safe. That is incorrect. So who am I? Who am I? What are we left with? Where are we going to go with this for the rest of the morning? I go back to the emotional guidance scale, which tells you in resonant frequencies how well you are doing or not doing with the blending of your thoughts with the thoughts of your higher self. How are you doing with that? Well, how do you feel? If you feel good, then you're doing very well. If you feel negative emotion, then it just means you aren't in alignment with yourself. It means that for this time, I would not act because your impulses are coming in backwards. You're having impulses to do things that are ultimately only going to cause you trouble. You know, you're going to wake up in jail, or you've killed somebody, or you've pissed your children off. They're never going to speak to you again, or you've done something. Do not act in misalignment. It really is not in your best interest. It's not who you really are. So who are you really? A Course in Miracles tells us that only the love part of you is real. Only the love part of anything is real. And insofar as you think anything else is real, that's your misalignment talking. Only the love is real, and your source knows that. Because your source is in touch with all things and knows dang well that only the love is real. Only the love is what it's looking at. That's pretty profound, actually. And so I think with that, I think I'm going to stop. I don't know how to add much more to that. Only the love is real. And so when you look at your neighbor as they are acting up, as they are, behaving poorly, perhaps they are in the throes of some political paradigm. We're going to discuss this in the days and weeks to come. I did try to watch a little bit of the Stormy Daniels hush money trial. Oh my gosh. We're in the weeds so deep, I don't even know what to say. I maintain that the question, who am I, is a relevant one. And that the way that you answer that question is everything. I maintain that. And in the spirit of that, I will be back tomorrow to talk about it more. And until then, as always, I bid you peace. I wish you well. And may the source be with you.